Welcome to the Science of Golf Performance. My name is Chris.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Tyler.
And today we're going to talk about, I think, a really important topic, and that is why your golf fitness routine is not working. I think there's a lot of you out there who, at least when I get to talk to you, are like, I've been doing this routine for X amount. And then I say, great, that's awesome to hear that you're motivated, you're spending the time like 5 days a week, an hour a day. What's your clubhead speed? 93. And then I look, okay, all right, 93, maybe you're 85. And I put, oh, no, you're in your 60s, and that's like 40th percentile. So you're putting in that much time. I get like mad for you, like when somebody's putting in that much time and their speed is that low. Like, so, yeah. I would be so mad if that was me.
It's frustrating, sure.
So.
I think there's a lot of things that people are doing that are definitely aiding in that, and their clubhead speed being so low. Lots of different things that we hear every day, and obviously the first thing I usually hear is, I work out really hard all the time. I do CrossFit twice a week. I run 5 miles, another 2 times a week, and I'm doing lots and lots of work where I'm fit, and I'm just not seeing the results on the course. And I think that's one of the main things, and one of the main things that's a huge issue. And I won't say it's necessarily overtraining, but maybe training the wrong way.
I think it's a lot of training the wrong way, because I get a lot of the same where they're like, I run long distance. Like I could go for like a 3-mile run right now. And then they talk about going to their stretch therapist or doing yoga afterwards. And you don't hear anything about power training or specific strength training or anything like that. It's just a lot of like the high volume and long endurance-y type of exercise. And that's where, it probably makes you feel really good. Like running 3 miles, I'd probably feel pretty good about myself too if I could run 3 miles. But at the end of the day, what's it doing to bring your clubhead speed up?
Well, I think that's the conversation of, there's a huge difference between being fit and cardiovascularly healthy, and none of that's bad. Right. If you're doing CrossFit, you're running, more power to you. You're running triathlons, that's awesome. But it's going to actually be detrimental to your clubhead speed if you're doing it in the wrong ways. And I think that's where, just knowing that if we put somebody on the good program, the first 12 weeks, you're going to gain at least 3 to 4 miles an hour, guaranteed. In the first year, you're up guaranteed 5 to 7, most of the times 8 miles an hour. You just had a guy in 12 weeks that went up 7 miles an hour. That's 21 yards, 20 yards. That's massive. But just by doing the right stuff. And so that's why I think I get really frustrated, and why we want to do this episode is we want to make sure you're doing the right things. And so I think what I'm hearing is a lot of long distance, a lot of high reps, a lot of stretching. We talked about in an earlier episode about why you're feeling tight. Definitely check that episode out if you're kind of doing a ton of stretching and feeling like you can't get to where you want to go because you could be doing the wrong stuff. We see that very often. What other stuff do you guys hear that people legitimately think they're doing the perfect right thing for themselves, but actually when you assess them, you end up going 180 degrees the other way?
Yeah, I think the other thing would be yoga, we touched on in the last episode, long duration stretches, and I feel tight all the time, so I'm doing this stretch routine every day where I'm holding stretches for a minute at a time everywhere that I feel the tightness. Anything you can add to that?
What I guess I'd think of when you mention that is there's a couple of people who we have that come in-house, as well as a couple online people who are I can deadlift 400 pounds. Okay, that's awesome. That's great. You're really, really strong. You've proven that, but you've hit that point where you're strong enough. And then that's where you kind of have to look back at the program and say, okay, you did really good at building your strength base, but at this point now, your strength is really not doing much for you in your progression and your development. Let's take a different approach and look and see what we can do for some power development.
And that may be speed. It may be, a lot of times really strong individuals, mobility. And I think there's a difference between stretching your hamstrings, which isn't really going to translate from a golfing perspective a ton, to is your hip internal rotation clear? How's your shoulder external rotation so you can drop the club into the slot? Helps with separation and not have a ton of side bend. Knowing the specific type of mobility, and there's not a ton of, so there's 4 to 6 different areas, that's it, that are really critically important. And if you're missing those because you're focusing on all these other ones, You're just spending a lot of time on stuff that isn't necessarily going to translate to the clubhead speed. And like, that's why we get the person who's swinging 93 and thinks that's as good as they can get.
Yeah. So I think back to people might be asking like, okay, well, that's not, why don't I want to be fit and do CrossFit? How is that not going to help me? So I think the main thing to educate people on is golf is a true power sport, right? You're swinging once and you're trying to maximize that one swing. So if we're running, think of a different sides of the spectrum, right? If you're endurance based and distance and you're running long distances, doing all this volume, you're up here. And then, you're not really training the power side so much, so your power's down here. The more your power goes up, your distance might come down a little bit, and the more your endurance goes up or the distance you train, your power's going to go down a little bit. So they're really opposite sides of the spectrum, and you really want to find, you can be fit and still have a lot of power. It's not like that, but you definitely want to maximize the power by training more like single, maybe triple reps at a time, short sprints if you're a runner, and keeping that distance with that long duration exercise down on the lower spectrum so that your power output can go up a little more.
Yeah, and I think, so there's a term in our profession that's called cross training, and it's exactly what Alex just explained. It's where you're training those long distance, your aerobic energy system, but you're training it for an aerobic, a power sport. And this is where the problem comes, is you can only be as powerful as you are what you train. So if you're training and you're doing 60-minute runs or a 3-mile run, then when you go to swing your golf club and your swing takes 2 seconds, the power generation isn't going to be there because your training background doesn't match that. And that's where, I guess, what we're trying to do is educate everybody to kind of just take a step back and look and see what exactly is golf. Golf, like Alex said, it's a true power sport. You're using your short-term or your anaerobic energy system, and that's what you need to try and focus or try and, I guess, push your training towards.
Yeah, I mean, your golf's downswing, the explosive part of the downswing takes less than a second. Then you're typically going to have about 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes before you do it again. So that's equivalent in the gym. You do 3 reps and then you rest for a minute.
Yeah, you might really be good at walking 18 and like good fit that way, but your power's not going to be too great, and then you're not going to have low scores and you're not going to play well.
Right. So I think it depends on what you're looking for. I think that's the goal. Is to help you understand that if you are a high volume distance, that doesn't mean you can't swing fast. It just means that you're not training to as optimally as possible to swing fast. So somebody watching this is going to be like, well, I run 6 miles a day and I swing 120 miles an hour. But you're not normal. Congratulations, but you're not normal. Like most people can't do that. And if you're running 6 miles a day and swinging 120 and not doing any strength training, my question to you would be, well, how fast could you potentially swing if we adjusted training more effectively? And that's where you just have to think of it, is kind of where do you want to be? Like, does it matter to you? Do you want to swing faster? But I think the reason for this is if you do want to swing faster, these are the conversations that we end up having to have and kind of the evaluations that we need to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. You can also flip that. So say you are swinging faster. You're swinging, you're sufficient with your clubhead speed and you're swinging as fast as you want to be, but you're not able to last 18. At that point, then it's like, okay, like kind of flip that around. Hey, we're doing really good at the power component of training. Now, what can we add in to make you last longer, make you be able to walk 18 and still feel good at the end of the round and stay mentally focused and resist fatigue for the last 3 holes? And I guess, one, it comes down to what are your goals? So with that'd be goals. You want to be able to last the entire round. And 2, being able to, I guess, not necessarily mock the sport, but I guess look at the needs of what the sport is itself and be able to fit it in your training.
Yeah. I think my favorite line is the only time you need to run in golf is when the crocodile is chasing you. Yeah.
That one was good. Yeah. So I think just being on a structured program that, you should always be strength training, whether it's to, prevent injury if you are swinging fast and keep you strong enough to control it well. And then if you're not swinging as fast as you want, strength training is going to help aid to your clubhead speed. So being on a good progressive program that supports your goals in that way, doing the proper mobility, assessing yourself, and then getting the right tools for that is, the right routine.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think the key takeaway here is there's no one fitness program or golf fitness or golf performance program that's going to be right. The key is evaluate where you are. I feel like we beat a dead horse with this. Evaluate yourself, assess yourself, and then see where you are now, where do you want to go, and then your training should be appropriate to that. And hopefully this episode has kind of helped outline how to get there.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that you should do the next time, say you're going to go and train later this afternoon, just ask yourself why. Why am I doing this exercise? Or like, why am I doing this distance of running? Like, if you can understand the reason why, then obviously there's a reason for it. Like, it's going to help benefit you. But if you don't know why, then that's when you kind of need to take a step back and rethink something.
If it's high reps, long distance, that's not going to generally translate to faster speeds. Mm-hmm. So I think make sure obviously that the why, that you understand the right answer to that too. Yeah. And hopefully this episode has helped you do that. So if you've enjoyed this episode, definitely 2 thumbs up. Give us a like, share it with your friends, and I would say definitely from this episode, check a couple of the episodes back before this. There's one we did on the home assessment, how to actually do it. That's a great episode to start to assess yourself if you haven't done that. And then obviously tons of other great content in terms of topics that are super important for people that we see. So. But until next time, keep swinging faster, and we'll see you soon.